itself. So even Swami Vivekananda preached the name of his master, Sri Ramakrishna, as the great purifier. And I think one way of thinking of it is to think about samskaras. Samskaras are the tendencies we have within us, the tendencies to repeat thoughts and actions. We get habituated to thinking in certain ways, of doing things in certain ways. And those samskaras, they're like ruts in an old road, an unpaved road, that when it rains, it gets muddy, and then a wagon goes over the road. And then, of course, the sun comes and it dries out, but those ruts remain. Now, another wagon coming along on that road, the wheels will fall into those same ruts, and you can't get them out of the ruts. It's very difficult to get them out of the ruts. So like that, there's these ruts in our mind, and the wagons are the different thoughts coming along, and they just come right and follow right in the same ruts. So chanting the divine name is like putting down new ruts, good ruts, so that the thoughts go in this, the thoughts start to take this form of simply the name repeating itself in our hearts, in our minds. Every time we chant the name, every time we think a thought, we lay down as it were, a small rut, or a small, like a groove in a record, no? The needle will follow in the groove. So as we chant the name, the mind can be redirected, so it doesn't. The old habit is, if somebody says something bad to me, immediately I'll get angry. And if that becomes a habit, then every time somebody says something, even if I don't show it, inside I stew. Now, if we make this practice of chanting, then when somebody says something, we chant the name. And the mind, instead of going towards that anger path, it goes to the name. And it starts to, that's how we start to purify our minds, by changing the tendencies, changing the samskaras through repetition. That's why when those who practice this chanting the holy name, we do it repeatedly. We continually practice this chanting, which sounds like maybe it's boring, but actually, once we start to taste the joy and the peace it brings, it's not boring at all. It's a beautiful and very powerful practice. So this is here. Vivekananda, also another quote from Vivekananda. He says, using the same image, if there is dirt and dust on a mirror, we cannot see our image. So ignorance and wickedness are the dirt and dust that are on the mirror of our hearts. So then the very next image Chaitanya gave us after the mirror is he says that this world is like a mighty roaring forest fire, and the name extinguishes that fire. It's Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Mahadavagni, that giant forest fire. This Bhava is a huge fire, and Nirvapanam means it gets extinguished. The name is like a cooling rain which falls on the fire. Now, what is that fire? Is this again one of those pessimistic swamis who says, the world is a fire, we're all burning in it? The fire is, usually we call it the fire of desire. And why do we call it the fire of desire? Because it's unquenchable. And if we reflect on it, we know, because the first inclination is to say, well, desire is what brings me joy. I want something, I fulfill that desire, I get some joy. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with it. That's true. That's the nature of things. A desire crops up in our mind. I really want. This old car is. I'm tired of this old car. It's got some dents and scratches on it. I want a new car. What kind of car do I want? I want a German car this time. BMW, electric BMW. I see them in Hollywood. They look very fancy and and smart. In Los Angeles, we have a lot of electric cars. Here in Houston, maybe not so many. What do you think? Because Houston is like the oil capital of the country, right? So Houston, they're still like the gas powered, the gas guzzlers, because that improves the economy here. But in Los Angeles, we have a lot of electric cars, a lot of Teslas, of course. And even though the Tesla moved to Texas, right? But still, I bet you there's still more Teslas in California than there are in Texas. But now the Californians are giving up Tesla because, anyhow, whatever it may be. So you want that new car. It's a pretty costly car, but okay, I'll set aside some money for it. Of course, nowadays you can just get a loan, right? And anyhow, you finally decide you've got enough money for the new car, the new BMW electric car, and you get it. How much joy. It's so well designed and it drives so nicely, and wow, I love it. I love my new car. And I feel really happy about it. But think about, for how long does that joy last? How long really? They did a study. I mentioned this in a previous talk, that they measured the happiness of people after they get married, and after marriage, typically happiness does go up. And I think they could quantify that it was about 2 years. So actually, how long does the honeymoon last? On average, about 2 years. With a new car, I think it's much shorter. It doesn't last 2 years. It starts getting dirty. Somebody in the family leaves their coffee cup in the cup holder and it spills coffee all over the thing. And then we get in the car and, oh, there's coffee and it's sticky and coffee spilled all over the thing. I'm going to see that joy of the new car is tarnishing. And then what happens? Another desire crops up. So that's why desire is unquenchable. You can't make desires stop by fulfilling them because they keep coming. So that's why it's considered an unquenchable desire. But actually, that they can be not quenched, but stilled. How are they stilled? When we attain that state of purna kamaha, all desires are completely fulfilled because we have touched that infinite reservoir of bliss and peace, which is the divine, which is shining in our hearts already. So paradoxically, that though that infinite fullness is ever within us, we are searching for it out everywhere, like the musk deer searching for that intoxicating scent, which is, it smells wafting up from somewhere, and it doesn't realize that all the time it's coming from that gland by the navel that's producing the fragrance. So the name, however, has that power to still those desires because it brings that peace, because it is not separate from the divine. This is the teaching on the name, that the name and the named are not two, they're one. Therefore, by chanting the name, we are actually invoking the presence of the divine. We are recalling the truth that the divine is shining within us. And it is in the divine that our desires are completely stilled. We become completely fulfilled when we know our true nature as one with God. So, as the mirror of the heart is wiped clean, we see that reflection then of the divine. We start to realize that the divine is within everything I need, is within me, and that fire of desire which disturbs us, which impels us through life, it gets stilled, it gets quenched, and we taste that peace of knowing God. So this is the power of the name. And lest we doubt, after all, what is in a name? You know, there's Sri Ramakrishna has that charming story of a man who went to Lanka, Sri Lanka. And this was after the war, and Ravana has been killed, and Vibhishana is the king. And this man, he needs to get back to India. How's he going to go? Well, Vibhishana, he says, I will help you. And he takes a leaf, and he writes the name of Rama on the leaf. And he ties it in the corner of the man's dhoti, his wearing cloth, and says, by the power of what I have tied in your cloth, you will be able to walk on the water, and you will be able to just walk across the ocean and get back to India. But don't doubt it. Don't doubt this, or you will drown. You'll sink and you'll drown. And so the man, with full faith, he starts walking, and he's amazed. He's walking on the waters. He's happily walking on the water, and as he's going, he's marveling at the power of this amazing talisman. What it is, he doesn't know, that he's been tied in his dhoti, and he starts to wonder, what is it? What is it that Vibhishana, what powerful thing has he tied in my dhoti that allows me to walk on the water? So his curiosity gets the better of him. He unties it, and he looks, and he finds a leaf with the name of Rama written on it. And he says, what? Just this? Just the name of Rama? And then he sinks right there and he drowns. So that's the rather humorous story of Sri Ramakrishna. But the name has tremendous, the words themselves have tremendous power. Swami Vivekananda points out, just think, and I'll quote a little from one of his talks. He says, I am talking to you. I am not touching you. The pulsations of the air caused by my speaking go into your ear. They touch your nerves and produce effects in your mind. You cannot resist this. What can be more wonderful than this? One man calls another a fool, and the other comes and raises his fists and lands a blow on his nose. Look at the power of the word. How powerful are words? I can go down to Texas, into Houston, and call somebody some kind of nasty word, and I get a blow in return. That's the power of the word right there. It's the tremendous power of the word. Then he gives the other example. There's a woman weeping and miserable. Another woman comes along and speaks to her a few gentle words. The doubled up frame of the weeping woman becomes straightened at once. Her sorrow is gone, and she already begins to smile. Think of the power of words. So words, all words are tremendously powerful. How much more then is the power of the divine name? Swamiji points out that we use this force of words unconsciously. We're not aware of it. But we are to know the nature of this force and to use it well. So when we chant the name of God, when we chant the holy name, we are using it well. And we know the power, because we know that the name and the named are one. There is actually a whole branch of Indian philosophy, of dealing with linguistics, and what exactly is the relation between a word and the thing it signifies. And it's pretty heady stuff, and I'm not going to go into it. But the idea is that there is a deep connection between the name of something and the thing itself, the thing named. And that deep connection, of course, is in our minds. Vivekananda says, there never was an idea without a corresponding word, or a word without a corresponding idea. Ideas and words are in their nature inseparable. So that's why we say namarupa, name and form. We don't just say this world of forms. We say this world of names and forms. So, all right, now let's come back to our verse, the Chaitanya Deva's verse. Next image he gives us is of a lotus. And this is a special kind of lotus. It's a kairava. And if you look it up, a kairava is a lotus that blooms in the moonlight. It is a white lotus that blooms when the moon rises. Uh, I know there are certain flowers which bloom at night. So apparently one of the varieties of lotus is like that. And it's not only a white lotus that blooms at night, but it's a Shreya Kairava. It's the lotus of supreme blessedness, of the supreme goal of life. And it is, he says, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Chandrika is the moon. So the name here, the chanting of the name, is likened to the moonlight which opens the lotus. Vitaranam, the lotus is spreading open. And what is that lotus? Actually, it makes perfect sense to understand that it is our own heart. It is our own heart lotus. And when the name, the moonlight, the gentle, not the harsh sunlight, but the gentle moonlight of the divine name falls on that lotus of our heart, it opens. And then our life is truly blessed. And there is then, Prabhupada translates this line beautifully as, O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. He is combining two lines here, because there is also this second line is two phrases. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. And Vidya means knowledge. Vadhu is the bride. Jivanam is the very life. The name is the very life and soul of the bride, which is knowledge. And I didn't understand this for a long time. I didn't understand, what is this bride of knowledge? But I think I'm understanding now that actually, if the bride is knowledge, then the groom must be devotion, or even the name. The very life of the life of the bride, of course, is the groom, right? The very life and soul of the bride in that idea is the groom, and the groom must be this name. So here Sri Chaitanya is, I think, hinting that knowledge of the divine comes through the name, comes through devotion. It's bringing together knowledge with devotion. That knowledge without love is dry. And when we have devotion, when we have the divine name, then we get the nectar of true knowledge, true wisdom. So so the heart opens to direct knowledge of the divine. That's how he translates this line. It's a beautiful image, very powerful image. And of course, Prabhupada makes it a prayer, O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. It's a beautiful image. This lotus, of course, is a very common, it's a beautiful flower, and it comes out of the mud, and when it's closed, it looks very ordinary, and yet when it opens, it's such a beautiful flower, such a beautiful, and similarly, that's why it's also very appropriate as a symbol for our hearts, which when our hearts are closed, nothing special there. It's when the heart opens that we see all the beauty. When the heart opens. So that's really the task of spiritual life, can be seen in one sense to open our hearts, to open the lotus of our heart, to open our hearts to the awareness of the divine presence, which is already there. And then, of course, the bees will come and drink the nectar. So it is of paramount importance in our spiritual life. Now, heart, we're not talking, of course, just as a reminder, we're not talking about the physical organ. There's a fleshy, there's a organ of pure muscle, which is the heart, which is the very core of our physical being. As soon as the heart stops, the body dies. So the heart is of tremendous importance for the physical. That's why the spiritual heart is really the essential part of our being, our spiritual being. And it is also said to be found, to be located somewhere deep within, in the region of our physical heart, but not exactly at the physical heart. And we actually have to find it ourselves. And through practice, through meditation, through this chanting of the name, we gradually open that spiritual heart and we find it deep within. But a good hint is where we feel deep emotions. Where do we feel love? If you really feel love for someone, where do you feel it? It's somewhere deep within, no? Or if we feel grief, we also can feel that. That's called our emotional heart. And more subtle than the emotional heart is the spiritual heart, which is what we are searching for. So we are instructed to meditate there in the heart. So let's see. Now we'll go on to the next part of this beautiful verse. Anandam buddhivardhanam. There's an ocean of bliss, and by the name grows it. The ocean of bliss, as already an ocean is huge, and by chanting it, the ocean expands and makes it overflow. The Prabhupada translation, probably he may have worked with Christopher Isherwood. They collaborated on many things, and may have collaborated on this one also, because he was a real master of the English language. They call it, so here they say, drown deep in the waves of his bliss, is the way they put it. It's anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritaswadanam. How beautiful. At every step, pratipadam, each and every step, we taste that nectar. Aswadanam, tasting, drinking that amrita, that nectar, which is purna, which is ever full and complete, which brings us to perfect completion. There is this idea of ocean is one of the vastest things we can conceive of. So the divine is often likened to an ocean the ocean of Satchit Ananda. Sri Ramakrishna often uses that image as a way of conceiving of the divine. You say, imagine an ocean without limits. Ocean is formless. It is a formless, infinite ocean. And then under the cooling influence of the love of devotees, that water freezes in places into icebergs. And those are the different forms of the divine, the different forms of God, are the different icebergs. They're made of what? They're made of none other than that infinite Satchidananda. They're made of that infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute, but solidified, as it were, under the cooling influence of devotees' love. And then again, they melt. So this ocean within, Chaitanya Deva is giving us this idea of an ocean within, and by chanting the name, that ocean expands, and we can go and taste that nectar at every step. There's a line in the Ram Nam. Here, we do the Ram Nam here. Have we been doing? Used to do. After he left. You remember the line? Dhanyaste kritinah pibanti satatam Shri Ramanamamritam. Blessed are they, those fortunate ones who pibanti, who drink constantly, incessantly, the nectar, the amrita of Shri Ramanam, the name of Rama. And singing the Ram Nam, we can actually taste that nectar. It's a beautiful experience if we can get that taste of the joy of singing the divine name. Good. Excellent. We should do it. It's a powerful practice. So this is the name becomes like nectar. And this is one of Sri Chaitanya's essential teachings, is to get a taste for the name. The kind of the three pillars of his teaching: Jive Daya, Name Ruchi, and Vaishnava Seva. So compassion for beings. Of course, we know later Sri Ramakrishna expanded on that teaching. But for now, we'll take it Jive Daya. The Vaishnavas are to cultivate compassion for living beings, and Name Ruchi, to cultivate a taste for the divine name, to want to chant it, to enjoy the taste of it, and Vaishnava Seva, to serve the devotees. This to relish it, we have to get a taste of it. And we can pray for that. Someone asked Sri Ramakrishna, how do we get that taste? How can we get joy in the name of God? And he says, pray with a yearning heart that you may take delight in his name. He will certainly fulfill your heart's desire. So then he sang a song, which is one of the Ram Prasad songs, I believe, which goes, "What a delirious fever is this that I suffer from? O Mother, thy grace is my only cure. Even for thy holy name I have no taste, O Mother. I doubt that I shall ever be cured of this malady." And then Sri Ramakrishna addresses this point: even for thy holy name I have no taste. A typhoid patient has very little chance of recovery if he loses all taste for food. Apparently, of course, typhoid in those days was something to be really contended with. And if all taste for food goes, then the life is in real danger. But his life need not be despaired of if he enjoys food even a little. That is why one should cultivate a taste for God's name. And he says, so typical of his teaching, he says, any name will do, Durga, Krishna, or Shiva. Then, if through chanting of the name, one's attachment to God grows day by day, and joy fills the soul, one has nothing to fear. The delirium will certainly disappear. So they also say the cure for jaundice would be, when you have jaundice, apparently sugar tastes bitter. Have you had jaundice? And does sugar taste bitter? It doesn't taste like sugar. But with the remedy, at least the traditional remedy is you go on taking sugar in small quantities, and gradually you get the taste for sugar. Maybe it's just that the disease itself takes its course, and gradually it needs sugar. Oh, the disease needs, so you shouldn't be taking sugar. Oh, you have to take sugar. Oh, I see. Okay. So the remedy for that bitter taste of sugar is to keep on taking sugar. So like that's a perfect example of chanting the name. At the beginning, it doesn't, you may not get the taste. It may not seem sweet. It tastes bitter. Why go on chanting this name, Rama, Ram, Ram? But gradually, if we go on chanting it, just like the jaundice patient, for whom the name tastes bitter, the sugar tastes bitter, the name tastes, gradually we start tasting the sweetness of the name. And then we know that our disease is starting to get cured. So that's a beautiful image of this taking the name, being cured of the disease, tasting the nectar at every step, getting the taste for the holy name. Once we get a taste for it, then it's wonderful. And then tasting his nectar at every step, pratipadam. And there's a wonderful practice of walking and repeating the name. There was an old English Swami in Trabuco, where I joined the monastery, named Swami Bhadrananda. And he used to take long walks, hours sometimes. He would go for miles. And that was his practice. He would do japa while walking. He would walk alone, and he would just walk and chant. And with every step, and if you time it right, you can get a rhythm where the mantra, maybe either depending on your mantra and on your walking pace, you might chant the mantra with every step, or with maybe with every 2 steps or every 3 steps, or however many steps you match the rhythm of your walking with the rhythm of the mantra, and it becomes a wonderful practice of. Mm, mm. It becomes automatic, right? It becomes an automatic practice, and that's a great blessing, to get the ajapa japa, the constant repetition of the name, without even trying. At first we have to try hard, and gradually, if we do it all the time, then it goes on repeating itself. And it's said that even if you fall asleep repeating the name, then you wake up repeating the name, and even in your dreams you can be repeating the name. So with every step, with every breath, with every heartbeat, the name goes on chanting the name, name. And then this finally, the last image is a bath, as a bath. It's for all. It's a bath for all souls. I think probably I don't. It's a sarvatma snapanam param, that supreme bath for all souls. It doesn't actually, for weary souls. I guess Prabhupada took a little poetic license to say. That calls it that bath for weary souls. O name stream down a moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drown deep in the waves of his bliss, chanting his name continually, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. So we bathe in the name. Again, another image given, that it's like a bath. We can envision even that the name is covering our whole being, our whole bodies, and filling all the nooks and crannies within, and purifying and washing away all impurities, and making us perfectly pure and one with God. So this is a wonderful practice of Sri Ramakrishna says, knowingly or unknowingly, in whatever state we utter God's name, we acquire the merit. As one who voluntarily goes to a river and bathes in it gets the benefit of the bath, so too does one who has been pushed into the water by another, or one who, when sleeping soundly, has water thrown upon him. So that's the idea of the bath. Sri Ramakrishna also uses that image of an elephant which takes a bath, right? The elephants go into the river and they bathe, and they with their trunk, they take a shower with their own trunk. They suck up the water in the trunk, and then they spray it on their backs, and they have a great time having a bath in the river. But what do? As soon as they come out, they roll in the dust. Because actually the dust protects them from insects and all those things. So they like to take bath, and then right after that they roll in the dust. So Sri Ramakrishna says, what good does it do to take a bath right after you roll in the dust? But if right after its bath the elephant is brought to the stables, these are obviously the tamed elephants, then it remains clean. So that idea is actually, his idea is that we chant the name of God at the hour of death. Then, when we leave the body, we attain the divine. Whereas otherwise, if we chant the name but then we go back to our old ways, so that idea of chanting the name of God at the hour of death, when we're leaving the body, our final thoughts have a power to determine our path after we leave the body. it is said. And really, the thoughts that we have at the final moment really are determined by what thoughts we have during our whole life. So that's why we practice now. All right. So I think probably that's enough. That's the first verse of Shikshashtakam, and it's a glorious teaching. We had several powerful images. First, of the heart as a mirror, and chanting the holy name is polishing that mirror so that we can see the reflection of the divine shining there. Second is as the divine name as a gentle rain, which is extinguishing the fire of desire. The third is of the holy name as moonlight shining down on the Kairava, the lotus which opens in moonlight, and the lotus opens and we taste the nectar of the knowledge of the God. Fourth is the ocean of bliss, that there's an ocean of bliss, and chanting the name of God makes this ocean bigger and bigger. The fifth is this idea of the name being nectar that we taste at every step. With every step we taste that nectar. And the sixth is the name as a bath for all souls, a powerful bath. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you this beautiful verse, first verse of the Shikshashtakam. And now it's time for any comments or questions you may have. Yes. Jumped, yes. Right. Sri Ramakrishna mentioned that too. That's a common saying. Yes. Hanumanji jumped over through the power of Rama's name, but Rama himself had to build a bridge. Right. And there's some incident in Sri Krishna's life where they had to balance something, and actually they wrote the name of Krishna on a leaf and put it in the balance, and that balanced the scales. Something. What's the incident? I forgot the incident. I don't remember the exact incident. We have to look that up. That's your homework is to look that up. Yeah. Mhm. Surely it will, because hearing something, it raises that thought that in the mind. But gradually, if you're hearing something, you don't have to chant physically. You don't have to by chanting. I'm not. Well, we should clarify that doesn't necessarily mean chanting with the vocal instrument, the vocal cords and the lips and the tongue. Actually, chanting the name, it's done silently within. Mostly, there are three kinds of chanting: the audible, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then there's the audible just to myself. Maybe my lips are still moving. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna. Then there's completely silent. It's taken within. That's the most powerful, actually. That's the deepest. So the external chanting is also good, especially in a group. It's wonderful to chant the names together, say the Ram Nam, where we sing it together. But it's actually when we sit for japa meditation, it's said that we should do it without even letting the lips move, which is not so easy to do. The lips want to move while chanting. At least the lips want to move a little bit. So, but if we can still that, even that impulse, then it drives it all much deeper within, just chanting silently. Then tomorrow we have one more talk, informal talk on from the sublime to the sublime, not from the sublime to the ridiculous. That's where we mostly find ourselves. So I'm going to propose tomorrow that we can practice not going from we can change our tendencies from from the sublime to the ridiculous, rather to going from the sublime to the sublime. So if you're interested to know more, tune in tomorrow. Same time, same place. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.